thing. July 25th, 2019, Planning Board, call to order. Roll call.
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present.
Secretary is here. Board Member Blaney is not here yet. Is he absent today?
He's absent.
Absent, okay. Board Member Zuccarelli.
Present.
Board Member Long.
Present.
Board Member Burke.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any minutes?
We
to
do,
approve?
we do. We have the minutes of April 11th, 2019.
April 11, 2019. Motion to accept.
Motion.
Motion by Robbins.
Second.
Second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. And Jackie, do you want to start?
Yes, we have the work session for
Okay.
Southampton Bridge LLC.
So we're closing the regular session and going into work session for Scuttle Bridge LLC.
Work session, yes.
Work session, yes, Scuttle Bridge.
Scuttle Bridge.
Scuttle Bridge.
So I want to, my name, first of all, is Linda Riley, 235 Hampton Road. I'm here for the applicant, who is Scuttle Bridge LLC, but the member, Mike Eskew, is here with me today. I want to make sure you're all looking at the most recent site plan that we did. We put in a couple of iterations because, and the most recent one is the one the applicant prefers.
The
But-
ones on your iPad might be the older.
All we have is an overview over here.
Okay, so,
We have nothing.
okay, you don't have it,
Yeah, we
okay.
just have an overview.
Okay, I brought extras.
Linda,
So-
is this the submission one?
Yes,
I have
Yes.
these for the board.
okay. Well, I can give you extras.
Oh,
These are reduced surveys, they're easier to look at. That just shows you what a 7-lot cluster would look like. We worked with planning and Marty Shea and others in coming up with this. You asked for a cluster plan, sort of, and there it is. We do not intend to, or there's no present intention, certainly, to actually do a subdivision, but this is to help you envision where the development area would go and where the open space would be. So we also submitted a 7-lot yield plan, which is part of Jackie's file. And this is the cluster plan that saves 50% for open space and includes road access that would meet the code. I want to show you that where the prime soils are called out to. This is reduced. I do have bigger ones that are sort of,
This
okay, you want,
are easy.
We have.
I think this,
That's showing the 7-lot cluster plan, which
Right.
is a possible alternative for subdivision. They are seeking right now the larger copy for the residents in the southwest corner.
yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the larger plan.
All we're looking to do really right now is build one house on the property. But because the property is just slightly over 15 acres and it's in the agricultural overlay district, we have to submit this site plan for your approval. So the part of what you need to look at, because it's in the agricultural overlay district, of course, is where the prime soils are. And the prime soils are laid out both on the big site plan, they're shown there, as well as on this colored map showing the subdivision or possible subdivision. The prime soils are also key. They're mentioned up above and they're key to letters below. They are entirely in various areas along the eastern boundary line. There really aren't any prime soils on the westerly end or pretty much down the middle. The dark lines show you where the various soils are. There are soils of statewide significance in the middle and the east, but those are not prime. So we were careful to stay away in our plan from any prime soils. The prime soils would be 100% preserved. We were also interested in staying well back from the wetlands. There are wetlands areas, and they happen to be in the same basic general areas as the prime soils. So the prime soils and the wetlands coincide to a certain extent. So the development area is basically shown on this colored map. What the applicant really wants to do is build one house. He doesn't have plans finalized in any way, shape, or form yet. He's working with an architect. He has a basic sketch of what he'd like to do. And this is prepared by his architect and then put on by the surveyor. But basically, it'll be a one-family dwelling, a pool house, and a tennis court. And you'll notice on this,
On which lot?
pardon me?
On the overall tract,
Well, it's on the, it chews up,
Phil, the big one.
yeah.
in the overall tract.
It's on the overall tract. We're not doing a subdivision.
Right now, it's just one lot.
It's one
That's
lot.
the overall.
Well, where's the house going to go?
The house is going to go right there.
That's my
If you'd
question.
like, would you like,
Here.
No, I
Yeah.
got it.
yeah, southwest corner.
Thank you.
And it would go in the southwest corner.
Yeah, here.
The important thing is to make sure that the house, the structures, we've only done one or two of these in the past. The important thing is that all the improvements, proposed improvements, occur in an area that would potentially be future
Development.
development.
Yeah,
Right now.
yeah. These are all within all 100% within the area that's proposed Lot 1, proposed Lot 2, and a little bit in terms of accessory structures on proposed Lot 3 on the subdivision map.
Is my mic on?
We couldn't
Yeah.
hear you.
It will basically use up,
It is.
I don't have them.
It's right here.
Oh, pull it closer.
I don't have much to say.
it is all clearly within the development area. There is a section of the code, it's 330-184N, that provides that when you're doing these site plans, the planning board review is really geared toward what the development area should be, so that there's room for future farmland preservation if it comes to that, if there ever is an application in the future for subdivision, and this is all within this development area. There has been some interest expressed on trails lists, and there was some, in talking with planning board staff and others, we learned that there would be some interest in, if there were a subdivision application, possibly having a trail up through this dogleg and across to the Frith property, which is in an application process right now. So that's left undeveloped. And all of the wetlands are left as not part of the development thing. Our particular development, my client intends to stay 200 feet away from the edge of any wetlands also with this, so there wouldn't be any involvement of the Conservation Board. I,
What's the intent of the,
I think it meets the intent of
Yeah.
the code in every respect.
did you review it, Jackie?
I
Yeah,
did.
Jackie, you have some issues
Yes.
with it?
No, I mean, right now, we asked for these tools essentially so that the planning board can review. And you guys had asked for a work session before this goes to a public hearing. We had canceled the previous work session and adjourned the public hearing that was previously scheduled. So tonight is a public hearing. We wanted you to be aware, we did get revisions based upon comments that we received. As Linda has pointed out, we have looked at different scenarios of development. We were envisioning how much yield, so the yield is 7 lots. With 7 lots, we were looking at the road or possible future common driveway being along the west side because we've got the wetland restrictions along the east side. With that too, we were looking at situation of the house. Some of the previous accessory structures were located within the jurisdiction of wetlands and within the 100-foot boundary. Since then, we also were notified by the DEC that there may be a presence of tiger salamanders on the property. So I know some of the board is familiar with tiger salamanders, and you have to have like a buffer zone of 535 feet away if it is a possible breeding pond. So in them shifting the house to the southwest, it really is taking into account the possibility of the presence of tiger salamanders there, and they would have to meet the DEC regulations regarding how they were going to build, etc. But the nexus of this application is really, where do you want to situate the house so that when we look at this through a subdivision, it's not problematic in where it's located now to a possible future subdivision and preservation plan. With this, she's outlined there are Primex soils on site, so this site is fairly unique. We've got wetlands along the northeast and then along the east side. We've got a pond, which may have been lined at one point, but
It is lined.
It is lined.
It is lined.
Yeah.
It's a lined pond.
And then, so we would have to look at that, but right now, they're essentially staying away from our town jurisdictional lines. They will have to comply with the DEC regulations for building a single-family house, which they are entitled to. The points that Linda got to, these properties here, so this is preserved through purchase of development rights. This is the Skellinger Hunting Preserve. This is town or county land here. We also researched earlier in the phase, almost even before the submission of the application, that there's really no nexus about why this little leg is here. I did some research on this early on. There's no real reason. It wasn't left for future road purposes or driveway, and essentially the subdivision here is carved out all around it, so there's no possibility to come in with access over here, which we did look at and research early on. But with that, we were looking at the presence and possibility of connecting a trail from this property, across this property, and through Frith. And then we would be able to continue to the Long Pond Greenbelt to the east, which would be a very important trail linkage to provide from like the hills of Bridgehampton through and connect it to the Long Pond Greenbelt. So that is why we've steered them in the direction of we would like to see a little bit of open space on the north. Originally, we were looking at possibility of agricultural reserve along the south, but when in looking at the ag soils and the configuration, like Linda said, they're a little bit more along the east, which is also where we've got the wetland restrictions as well. So essentially, we would recommend putting the development along the west with a possible future common driveway or road along there. And also we did recommend, and the applicant has actually shifted the building when we first were reviewing this plan. It was a little bit closer to the west. We recommended to them, just in case, we know there's no intention now, but we are planning for the future. So in case there is a possible road, we did ask them to shift their house over a little bit more to the east so that it could accommodate a 50-foot wide road or, 3 common driveways, however, the plan comes in the future if it does come in. So they have made that subtle shift, still meeting the wetland setbacks. So we just really wanted to show the board this updated plan, see if you had any questions. You will have a hearing tonight to take public comments on.
What is the ownership of that strip?
That is
It's
owned
theirs.
by Scuttlebridge.
You own it.
Yeah, we own it.
Yep.
There are really no restrictions on this property. There are no, not even an ag use agreement.
Do we know how
It's-
that came about?
No.
No, I researched it, and it
yeah.
just seems like almost like a little.
Mr. Hendrickson didn't
Yeah.
even know. I bought it from the Hendricksons.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Said that it has a 70-lot yield. And
Yes.
based on what I just heard, 3 of those lots as defined on this smaller map are going to be used for the house.
Yes,
Does
so
that mean that the other 6 houses are going to be in that smaller area now much smaller, or have they actually used up 3?
It does not, it does not. They'll be
not.
using up one development lot potential.
it's
In a
still
cluster
6
plan
lots.
alternative, they've basically showed you what a cluster plan would look like, and where they're situating the house now would be mostly on lots 1 and 2, with some of the accessory structures spilling onto lot 3. But that doesn't mean accessory structures can't be removed, but also we could look at a slightly different cluster plan alternative if that ever comes
Yeah, they're not
before
locked
the board.
into this cluster plan.
We're not locked into this
They've
at
got
all.
broad
Yeah.
latitude.
Yeah.
They might do some attached housing, they might do some really small,
Might do nothing at all.
or nothing at all.
They still
Might do
have
nothing.
the
Or
opportunity
reduce
They still have the
to build
opportunity,
house.
once they build one house, they'll still have the
That-
opportunity for
that
6 more.
was my question.
Yeah, they'll still have the opportunity for 6 more.
Not something we're dwelling on.
Maybe someone else.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to understand.
So even the 3 lots are essentially taken up with this compound?
Doesn't mean that it's going to be that configuration. This is for discussional purposes where we would like the development if a subdivision does come in.
Right. He may or may not build a tennis court. We're trying to show all the kinds of amenities that someone might want. This is, you know, the general location where he will build the house. He will, within this development area as shown.
And so, in
But-
going through this too, we were looking at it because there's been ones that we've looked at before. Now, this gentleman does not have any architectural plans drawn up as of right now, like nothing specific. So how we've handled it though in the past is we've done it more like a site plan. So I actually asked Kathleen to bring the code section that delineates what the board is specifically approving. Because last time when we did this, the last one, and I handled it, we were also doing a subdivision at the same time, so it was simultaneous. So at that point, they knew what house they wanted, they knew all the amenities they wanted and where they wanted to situate it, as well as they were proceeding with the subdivision. So this is a little bit different, but in looking into the code, and Linda Riley pointed out that really what the planning board is responsible for, even though we're looking at this like a site plan, we're really only approving a development area. So I think I wanted to make that clear on the record, and Kathleen has the section noted in the code. So we might not be specifically locating structures on this application, but we're basically going to be approving a development area or a development envelope where they can build their future residence. So Kathleen has the section, just so we're clear on what we're
Yeah,
approving.
Council, Linda already referenced it, it's 330-184, N as in Nancy, and it just basically indicates that you're not approving site-specific features, just the development area.
So conceivably, they could decide to place the house further up into the development area if they wanted.
Yes,
They
or
could.
accessory
They wouldn't have to
structures.
come back to this
Yeah,
board.
and because he doesn't have architectural plans too, we're not, going to specify exactly, because say something changes once he draws up architectural plans, we don't want to have to come and modify the planning board's approval. So after reviewing that portion of the code, we're going to really be approving a development envelope, which will be in the southwestern corner of the property.
And it specifically indicates that it does not require architectural review.
Yeah, there is no, yeah. Which brings me to another thought, which was, I did review the comments that you got back from the advisory. You sent out some, staff sent out some referrals, and one of them was from engineering. And the one from engineering asked for the approval to be conditioned on what I consider to be site-specific improvements. It wanted your approval, it recommended that your approval be conditioned on a SWIP, for example. My client understands he has to do a SWIP if he disturbs more than 1 acre, and he may well do that, and we know we have to do it, but that should be something, I think, that's left for sites. It's hard to do when we don't have the specific plans yet,
Yeah.
particularly, and the same thing for the erosion and sediment control plan, the drainage plan. We would just, we know we have to do whatever the code requires in terms of stormwater pollution control, but would just appreciate it if the building permit is conditioned on compliance with all of that, as opposed to
I don't
the,
think they get engineering approval.
No, we would probably clarify that at the
Yeah.
approval phase anyways, because they're looking at this as a site plan, so they're looking at it.
they're
as an
looking at it like a
engineered-
commercial.
There.
Like a driveway is
Yeah.
absolutely going in, so drainage will have to be required, so we can take a look at that on
So we're approving that a house and accessories are going to be somewhere down here.
Yes, correct.
Well, but maybe not. No, we're just approving this whole yellow
development
piece,
area.
right?
Not the yellow piece.
Well, why not?
Well,
I mean,
the entire yellow 7 lots.
well, that's, I think, a development area.
Because
That's-
this,
It's my impression that's what the
I
intent
thought
of the
that's
law
what,
is.
Oh, I wasn't thinking it was just gonna be the yellow, but I was thinking.
Yellow
it was
and the
gonna-
green.
I was thinking it was gonna be something defined down
That's why I
here.
say, when they go to
Uh-huh.
file their permit, they might, let's say they have a buyer, and the buyer says, oh, I don't want to be this, I don't want my house this close to the road, I want to be up toward the top.
Mhm.
So they might decide to file the building permit with the house further toward the top. They still have to meet wetland setbacks and all applicable, standards, so.
there's no view shed protection along here.
No,
only open space
there's,
here.
first of all, it's not contiguous to any farmland.
Mhm.
And there's nothing in place at this point in time. And as you can see, there is development on either side, houses on either side. There are houses chock-a-block across the street. And there is no farmland. The view shed stuff is all about preserving views, vistas of farmland. There is no farmland. I mean, it's in an agricultural overlay district, but it's not itself farmed, and it's not contiguous to any farmland. I don't think it's likely, frankly, that it'll ever be quote-unquote farmed, although we'll leave that for,
One never knows.
one never knows.
Yeah.
We'll leave that for later.
So the
It's
only
a question
thing,
of what we're looking at
Yeah,
now
so-
and long-term.
and so the only concerns I would have just now, and we can discuss this further at upcoming meetings, once we have the public hearing as well, but I am just looking at the jurisdictional 200-foot boundary, and really, we don't have any problems with lots 1, 2, and 3 having any wetland issues. Now, if you're designating a development area, I would just be concerned if we're moving towards allowing it in all of the yellow, that the board might be responsible for looking at a wetland permit. But if we only approve it in the vicinity of lots 1, 2, and 3, and even maybe extending a little bit onto 4, but outside of the jurisdiction, then you're not really dealing with any wetland implications where this board would be responsible for complying with chapter
Can we clarify
325.
the application, because I'm now not sure if we're doing a zone or we're doing the full.
This is for
yellow.
residents, but we're approving like a building envelope. So my concerns are that if we were approving all 7.
that's what I'm asking.
That we
Yeah.
might be implicated in a wetland permit.
Right.
Which I don't want to delay the applicant, and if they're not seeking to build within that area now, I would be much more comfortable with just allowing a development area essentially outside of the wetland jurisdiction boundary. So maybe encompassing like the western portion of lot 4 and all of lot 1, 2, and 3 as shown on this map. But they can prepare a development envelope map to show the planning board, this is for discussional purposes of where a future subdivision would be. So I just don't know if I'm inclined to have the board right now carve out all the yellow
Right.
for development,
Well-
just because of the wetland
Because of the wetland
implications.
setbacks.
But we can discuss this further, absolutely,
Yeah.
because
And-
they're showing their plan on lots 1, 2, and 3, and
And we are showing it clearly more than 200
Yes.
feet away from the edge of
yes.
the wetlands, even though, I mean, there's a really good argument that because this pond is lined, it's not, it's exempt from your wetlands.
Well, there's a history, I think, on this property with water that's coming down from the north all the way down and continues on down. So
Yes.
there's just I don't think it's a storm, but it's like a
Yeah, no,
storm.
from Frith. Frith, there's a pond here, you can see how there's wetlands, it kind of comes down.
Although on the Frith, I looked at this Frith subdivision, what you've got so far, the survey, I looked at that file, and on their map that you've been reviewing, the wetland line is fully confined within their lot.
Well, so there might be a
But-
higher ridge with wetlands on the north, and then wetlands on the south that then connect to the property.
Right.
So,
And then, of course, we don't know about tiger salamander. When will we know that?
Well, you'll never know.
well, we can leave that as a condition, that if
Right.
any, shall comply with any required New York State DEC permit and
Right.
regulations.
We
so.
will comply.
It was last seen by somebody not identified in 1991. And then not again in 2000, and then not again in 2010.
The DEC actually seined the pond last year. He
And there are
allowed,
fish in the pond, and supposedly
that's a,
that makes it a problem for the salamander, though. The last person to ask.
And you have kept all of this correspondence?
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah.
Okay,
Can
the
you not
problem is
hear?
the box is
The
blocked.
box
The
is on the
microphone is
microphone.
behind the
The
box.
box.
And all those are.
All right.
Just
No,
move the
other way.
box to the floor.
It's right here.
Oh, sorry.
No, they just want to make sure they get.
No,
what-
all I'm saying is
Fix
that,
it.
Tiger, what I've been told by DEC was there was a sighting, though apparently it wasn't DEC who used to look for them, someone else did, though they don't know for sure, but it was 1990. And then not again, ever, though it was checked 2 or 3 times. And then last summer, I allowed them, at their request, I gave them permission to seine it, but I went to watch because I was interested. And
You were nosy.
yeah, I was nosy.
Mostly
right?
about his own
And
property.
and they found lots of frogs, a whole lot of frogs, and fish, but no salamanders. But apparently the salamander comes out. I've
I
taught,
was just going to ask you what
it's a
time of year.
bizarre kind of creature, but
It's
it
a
takes
unique species.
2 or 3 years to prove the negative, I guess, which is not something I'm really.
Plus, they're sneaky.
Well,
I
the DEC
I grew up
is-
in West Virginia. I won't tell you what they are there, but they, they're not extinct or not near it.
Bait.
So, I didn't say that, but no, I actually care about
I hope so.
the water in the pond. I don't want it bothered, and I have no real intention, seriously, of subdividing it. There was at one time I thought about it, and God knows a lot of people have called to try to talk me into it.
You just want to build this house?
I want to build a house that I would live in.
Right.
He wants to build a house for himself
Mm-hmm.
on what is really a beautiful vacant lot and enjoy the natural beauty of it.
And keep it safe, actually.
Tell me about this line of planted trees.
Those are mine. I planted
You
them.
planted those?
Yeah, and I started planting little trees, and at the end of every summer, I've bought some stuff from the people getting rid of everything, like the nurseries, because at the end of summer, end of season, they sell it for 10 cents on the dollar, and that's where it came from. I grew pumpkins there once.
It's for his own use.
It's not for
He doesn't
commercial
sell
use or
it
anything,
or-
no.
Well, no, I just, if you're
Yeah.
going to develop,
They'd be moved. I wouldn't kill them. We tried to save as many as we could of the
The
original.
greenhouse and the barn that show on the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
those were existing?
no.
No.
That's something I would hope to be able to do someday. I'd like to have a greenhouse.
Yeah, I don't.
You just- yeah.
They're kind of reversed too.
The greenhouse would not be that big.
He intended for the barn, well, but the.
They're mislabeled.
They're mislabeled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bit larger one would be the barn and the smaller one, the greenhouse. But again, he was just showing them somewhere on the property. Again, they're 200 feet from any possible edge of wetlands that we can see. And I don't know that they would be
If ever. actually
built anytime soon. And they're actually agricultural structures. That's a whole,
I mean, so the only thing is, if he wants to proceed with those, I have no problem. They're outside of the wetland jurisdiction, and, you know, they'll have to comply with DEC if there is
Mhm.
requirements for
Understood.
tiger salamander design elements and drainage. There's very specific design
Curbs.
elements.
So we want a clear definition of this
So we just
particular
want a clear
parcel?
definition. That's why I just don't want to be
Boundaries?
like, yeah, the yellow is
Yeah, no, you're
absolutely
right.
fine.
You're absolutely correct.
But we can discuss that.
Yep.
What
And
do you have? The non-yellow?
I have, I take, we have a hearing tonight.
yes,
We're going to discuss this
And we might be able to show
issue,
you
and we may
outside
be able
the.
to show, we may come back with a proposal to solve that. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll discuss it in between now and the hearing. See if we can bring something else to you. Any other questions?
No, but let Jackie see it before. Give her
we can submit
some
it
time.
and then we'll review it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we didn't want this back
To be
in.
continued.
to be continued, but
And
but
sorry
we
that
do hope
last
that,
time about the
I think she could
cancellation.
take it.
yeah.
This
A
happened.
bit of a health scare.
Well, I hope everything's
put it in
okay
the
now.
box.
Now, yeah.
Okay, that's worth it.
We have a box. Excuse me, that's essential.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot.
What?
I shouldn't have forgotten. I have a, sort of a statement of law and facts on this, that rather than throw it at you tonight, it's not very long, but
Oh, well, thank you.
I just, well,
You want to give it to us? We'll distribute. We'll pass it around.
yes, and one for Kathleen.
Yeah, got enough.
Just give you a few minutes to look at it before, because it does have some other points in there that I didn't make today in our work session. Okay, so I think that's it.
Thank you.
Jackie. All right, good luck.
See you tonight.
Those are the extras of this.
Yeah, we're gonna submit them into the record, so that we can.
All of them? It's the same thing, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, the public.
We're closing the work session and proceeding with the regular planning session. And Matthew, are you up? Are you doing the
I'm gonna handle a
Claire's?
couple of Claire's first.
Okay, the wireless, number one, wireless tower.
These first, resolution. Handouts for the application.
These are all of yours?
Those are all the resolutions, and then the handout with the map is just for the.
Okay.
Everybody has to be behind the
Just give us a sec.
Absolutely.
You did such a nice job. Oh, no.
Yeah, they-
There's one extra anyway.
Did Zachariah get one?
Yep.
Set.
We are.
This is wireless towers in West Hampton Cemetery. You guys had a work session on this back in October, I believe. This is a request for a pre-submission conference. It's a 125-foot concealment pole and accessory structures at 52 Montauk Highway in West Hampton. Like I said, it's subject to a pre-submission conference, but with the new timelines that we learned about a few months ago, this resolution has two actions. One will be to set a pre-submission conference, and the other will be to deem the site plan incomplete, just so we freeze that shot clock. If you recall. And pretty much it on this. This will be set for September 12th.
Motion by Dennis, second by Phil. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. September 12th?
September 12th.
Now we have to take a second action.
Yeah.
I have it all in one resolution.
Depends which one.
You might.
Matthew?
Not loud enough.
Yeah, gotta bring it right in front of you.
Yeah, you don't project.
Hopefully they can hear me now.
Okay, so we need to deem it incomplete.
Yeah, it's all in one
All in one
resolution.
resolution.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's to deem incomplete and to set the pre-submission conference.
Okay, thank you.
Clarification. Okay, moving on to number 9, Watermill Village Townhouses.
Number 9.
Robin.
Give us a sec.
Maria. This is Claire's also.
Okay.
This is a request for the modification to some of the conditions on the site plan approval, which was approved on November 15th of 2018. Two conditions that were in place were a submission of affordability covenant for the 4 affordable units and submission of a correction deed with affordable housing restrictions to be done prior to signature. The applicant's requesting that this gets modified, so those two conditions would take place prior to the issuance of a building permit. I guess one of the holders of this property wants to see a health department approval before the properties are merged. So this is why you would get that after site plan approval prior to the issuance of a building permit. I do have the applicant's representative here. Mary
Hey,
Jane Asada.
how are you, Mary Jane? Just make sure you speak into
Yeah,
the-
just
Yeah, we've
project
been
into that
getting
microphone.
yelled.
Mary Jane Asado, Brooke Flanagan Asado, 21 South Main Street for the applicant. As you well know, when you file a covenant, you have to do the title certification, and it comes back with the mortgagee, and the mortgagee has to consent to whatever things that you're going to do. And the mortgagee knows what's going on, but their counsel advised them, well, wait a minute, you still are working with the health department to get the health department approval, and we have 3 separate parcels, we've cross-collateralized. So if there's quote a default, and I said, well, come on, highly unlikely. But they said, we're speaking strictly from representing the lender. It's easier to sell 3 separate properties at an auction if that foreclosure should happen, rather than this merged parcel. So we're not saying we're not going to consent, but we would like this to happen before you pull the building permit, which is after you get the health department approval, because that's when the whole construction stage starts. So I said, well, I can understand from the lender's point of view. Obviously, I will go to the board. So we're indicating to you, this project is moving forward, believe it or not. It's going to be constructed, but certainly having the condition of the covenant and the deed showing the affordable housing before we pull the building permit, I don't think is unreasonable, and it doesn't jeopardize your interest whatsoever, because obviously it will be put on, as if we were building.
Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable.
Reasonable.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Oh, and the other thing, although I think it's pretty clear from the previous condition, John Wagner from Sir Tillman Balin, who does all of the condo filings pretty much, has been retained, and he indicated to me it doesn't seem to be that the condo map filing is a condition of the site plan to be signed. He goes, you don't file the condo map, Mary Jane, until you're ready to convey, because the areas have to be delineated. It's not just the building footprint itself, because you have to do the offering plan with all the approved maps, and you have to attach the building permit and everything else. So please have the board say on the record that I will be following the condo map, that is, the attorneys that have been retained for this, prior to the issuance of the CO and prior to any conveyance, but that the normal process of filing the offering plan and whatnot doesn't happen until basically you're out there to be offering, which is subsequent to the issuance, previous to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And I think that he's, in fact, he was saying to call you if you had any questions, but that is the standard format apparently, because you have to have something to offer.
You have to have a filed offer plan,
Yeah,
with
so-
New York State.
So he says you really can't, it's done simultaneously, and obviously you can't sell anything without that, and that's when all of the allocations are done for tax purposes. So I said, fine. It doesn't say here that filing of a condo map is a condition of signing the site plan, but I will repeat that on the records, and the board, if anybody has a problem with that, they should certainly, I said, I'll get their comments, but I don't think that is an issue with you. Certainly it wasn't with Claire. She said, no, we've done this before. You don't do that until you're ready to convey, so.
Motion?
So what's our action, Matt?
This is the modification
The
to
modification of
the covenants for the
The conditions.
The
It's actually
conditions, yeah.
modification to the conditions. of the
conditions
site plan.
from signature to,
conditions. So Kathleen has
Yeah.
seen them, council?
she will. That's a condition of this approval will be that Kathleen will have to review and approve them.
That's a condition, okay.
Yes. And
Oh,
this
yeah,
is-
that's
this
always
is
a
the-
condition,
yeah,
obviously.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
It's for the affordability covenants for the 4 affordable units and submission of the correction deed with.
So all
affordable
we're doing
housing-
is changing the
housing
timing.
restrictions. The
Yes.
So
timing.
just timing.
Just
So
the
it's
timing,
changing the
from
timing
signature,
only.
Yes, that's-
yeah, from
And-
signature to prior to building permit.
And also, I just wanted to, when you use the word correction deed, what we are talking about is, it's a deed that's going to merge all 3 properties and put an affordability provision on there. So it's not really a correction deed. I just want us to all be on the same page. I think what is contemplated is, I have to merge the 3 separate lots into one comprehensive piece.
Before.
Yeah.
And put a notation on there that it's subject to affordability covenants.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, good.
I'll move it.
Motion by Robin, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1
Thank you.
absent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
And if you could email me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to number 11, please. Oakland Hills Estates.
Oakland Hills Estate, number 11.
Site disturbance, 20C Farm Court. Dennis has some aerials and re-veg plans.
Yeah.
We received the site disturbance back in October of 2018 for the property located at 20C Farm Court. It's about a 28,000 square foot parcel in the R20 zoning district and the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. It's overcleared by approximately 13.5%. I just received revised plans back in July. They comply with all our requirements, so we're just looking to approve these with the typical conditions that all work completed shall be inspected for compliance, and that they submit 4 updated surveys that show they conform with 330-67.
Any kind of a maintenance bond on that?
Nothing for residential. We don't require maintenance bonds because it's nearly impossible to do.
What was the percentage of overclear?
13.5%.
Where were they overcleared?
You can,
That
Oh, I
dotted-
see,
those
dotted area.
Dotted areas.
that's where they're going to revegetate.
Boy, from the aerial, it sure looks.
Yeah, it looks good. They just don't have a lot of understory,
Yeah.
which is, people don't realize you need that too. Okay.
I'll move it.
Yeah.
Motion by Dennis, second by
Second.
Robin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you. And on to 12.
Another re-veg?
Another re-veg.
Keep it coming.
Try and get it moving through as
Those blueberries.
quickly as possible, exactly.
Oh, I'll leave it there.
Edge of Woods.
Yeah, this is 165 Edge of Woods Road. It's number 12.
Yeah, that's what
This is going out? This is
going out.
incoming.
Going in.
This is incoming, that's outgoing.
Look at the news. Quite right.
Ooh, that's very clear.
Okay.
That's very clear.
So we received this on June 15th of this year, 2019. It sets at 165 Edge of Woods Road. It's just under an 80,000 square foot parcel in the CR 200 zoning district, the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, and it's within close proximity to town regulated wetlands. I have been working with the Environment Division throughout this. I actually, being that it's in the jurisdiction of wetlands, I have them look at the plan, make sure all the species are good in terms of their review, because they have to issue a administrative wetlands permit because of the clearing. They did that on July 9th of 2019. This is the same plan that Marty's office has, so we're just looking to, again, approve this re-veg with the typical conditions for an inspection and the submission of 4 surveys.
So question.
Sure.
Along the border, you have revegetation,
Yep.
but it's 160 feet from the wetland.
Yes,
So how does that work?
it has to be revegetated because they're cleared within wetlands, but that's why they had to get a administrative wetlands permit from the conservation, from the Environment Division.
And what sort of species are being planted?
Those, I believe, in the back are oak trees and blueberry bushes. I don't have the plan in front of me, though. But this is the same plan that Marty approved, knowing
Yeah,
that
it's
those,
oak.
yeah, knowing
Yeah,
that
it's red
those
oak
trees are
and
going to be
black oak.
within the jurisdiction of
Is this
wetlands.
on the north or south side of Vegetation?
This is on the north side. Yeah, and the area that's along the property line was actually an encroachment by the neighbor that this property is correcting. Yeah,
So they
on their own
cleared over the
property, yeah,
line.
yeah. So their neighbor actually cleared onto their property and they're revegetating.
So do we need to do anything more about that? Reestablish that? What?
That's a relatively new house.
No, it was just, it's part of this application that they're revegging that area.
Okay, any other discussion? Can I have a motion to approve the re-veg by Dennis? Second by Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're
I
not,
apologize.
she's not,
And number 13, Wave Song 2 and 3.
It's all Kathleen's fault.
Secra.
always a lawyer.
I'm glad to sandwich between them.
Your lucky day. It's your lucky day.
I'm like the cream in the Orient.
Pass to the left.
Yeah.
Number 13, right?
Yes, number 13, yeah.
Okay. This is a lot line modification that's on Ocean Road. You've already had a public hearing on this, being that it is in the agricultural overlay district. It's a type 1 action. So this is, do the secret review. I've done the applicant's done part 1 of the full environmental assessment form. I've done part 2. I haven't identified any moderate to large impacts. I can review the part 2 if you'd like in detail.
Yeah, just go through
Absolutely.
the category.
Yeah. You guys have copies there, and I'll get started whenever you're ready. Impact on land, I said yes, but as I said, all impacts I've identified are no to small impact. H, other impact, the project is located within the agricultural overlay district, and it contains prime ag soils, with 1 lot improved and 1 lot actively farmed. Number 2, no impact on geological features. Number 3, no impact on surface waters.
Wait, now surface waters, what about drainage here? This is farm.
Moving the lot line, I don't think it's going to have an impact necessarily. They're 2 established building lots. I don't think it's going to have an impact on surface waters. No impact on groundwater, no impact on flooding. Number 5. Number 6, no impact on air. Number 7, no impact on plants and animals. Number 8, impact on agricultural resources, I said yes, but again, no or small impact may occur. Impact on aesthetic resources, no. Impact on historic and archaeological resources, yes. This is within the archaeological sensitive area, so it could have a small impact, but nothing moderate to large. Impact on open space recreation, yes, but again, no to small impact may occur. 12, impact on critical environmental areas, I said yes. Again, it's in the agricultural overlay district, but again, no, predicting no or small impact may occur. No impact on transportation, no impact on energy, no impact on noise, odor, and light, no impact on human health. It's consistent with community plans, consistent with community character, and that's it. I've prepared a negative declaration, and I have a resolution to approve that if the board is comfortable or has any more questions. It's pretty innocuous. It's transferring, a small portion from the back lot to the front to make the front lot about 80,000 square feet.
And the rear lot, no further subdivision on this?
No, we don't have that. When we're doing the approval, we could discuss that as a condition, but this is just for secret at this time. But they're 2 established building lots.
And the address is 917 and 929 Ocean.
Correct, in Bridgehampton.
And what will be the size of the back lot?
The back lot. 164,781 square feet.
That's plenty.
Plenty. As far as I know, it'll continue to be farmed.
It's farmed now.
It's farmed now.
Question, why didn't they put the addresses on any of these,
On what?
on anything?
Oh, on the survey, it's just, they typically don't put addresses, they'll put the tax map number. It's in the resolution, though, the address.
I don't know, I had to dig for it.
Sorry.
I wanted to see where it was.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
It
917,
just makes
929.
work for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other discussion?
This would be to adopt the negative declaration.
Motion.
Motion for a neg deck by Phil, second by Zuccarelli.
Jackie, I have this for you to
6.
sign, if you'd be so kind.
6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. And the last one I have is number 15, to acknowledge the signature of Gina Webster, which is another lot line modification, but this one's in West Hampton.
It's what?
In West Hampton, this is acknowledging the signature of Gina
And this is,
Webster.
sorry, I'm sorry, going too fast. What's the number?
15.
15.
Not on here.
Sign
Yeah,
it
it's on.
down.
Sign
Okay, it's not
faster.
on here.
Here, else.
It should be, because it printed out. It's on your, it should be in the actual
It's in your packet.
agenda also.
Okay, so acknowledging
50.
signature on 15. It's not on the pad.
Oh,
is what
really?
I'm saying.
That's
No.
weird.
It goes from 13 to 16 on the pad.
Very strange.
So we're not
Like,
crazy,
one
right?
number is gone.
So this
don't
is
have to do
15,
those.
and it's
15, yeah.
called Gina
Gina Webster, because it's on the actual paper agenda.
Gina Webster. This is it.
Yeah, no, but if you look in the paper agenda that Patty printed you out today,
Yeah.
it's there, it's just not on your iPad, which is weird. But stranger things have happened. That's it.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. And your packet's done.
Yes.
Recycle. They're gone. Yeah, we can send this down so we can do that. That was one.
That was Blaney's, yeah.
What number do you start with?
I'm starting at number 3.
Okay.
Number 3 is,
Hang on.
oh, sorry about that.
Give us just a sec.
That's okay. For the record, they won't have any problems hearing me in there.
No, you have a good, clear voice.
This is standing at the podium.
Okay. So it's number 3, it's RJS Properties. This is the site plan immediately east of and adjacent to the former Capital One Bank building. This site is highway business zoned. It contains the old bank building that they're redoing and building a 7,300 square foot auto zone retail business. Just so you understand on that use, the overwhelming majority of the building space will be used for storage. As you know, you've been in these facilities and you go in and you order and they pull the parts for you. So most of the retail space is pretty limited and most of it's for storage. So they're proposing to build that. They're refurbishing the existing bank building with the new drive-through.
It's a B&B. or-
That's right, it's going to be a B&B. Per our pre-submission conference, and I attached the elevations, they did make changes to both the buildings. Most notably, the bank building was really going to have very little changes to it, and they're doing a hardy plank siding now, so they really did fix it up. Right now, all we were going to do is the secret determination and then completeness. Unfortunately, the Part 2 didn't make it to the iPads. I don't understand why. You're going to have to take my word for it. But my Part 2 didn't identify any significant environmental impacts. The only small to moderate impacts would be obviously on transportation and traffic. But they wouldn't be terribly crazy. This is a small bank and it's an existing bank building. There was one there previously. And the auto zone wouldn't generate a ton of traffic. And then obviously impacts on land. Obviously construction of a new building would have some impacts on land, but again, they would be small to moderate, so nothing reaches the level of a positive declaration. So I'm recommending that we neg deck this, deem it complete, and schedule a hearing for September 12th.
Has there been,
Yep, please.
has there been a reconfiguration of the parking?
There's been some changes to the parking and I think there's going to be some more after I do my review and we get some comments back from the engineer. But there was some changes. They addressed some of the interior landscaping that we had recommended. They had addressed some of the setback issues on the plans, and they had changed the elevations. I still think the auto zone building's going to need a little more work, but that'll come out of going to the Architectural Review Board.
Is there any opportunity for cross-access?
We had this discussion. The answer is not really. The planning board left it out of when they did the subdivision, and they had basically addressed that issue, saying trying to get out to
Bittersweet.
it didn't make any sense through these properties. I did leave it open in the pre-submission conference report that says we could always examine that issue again during the site plan process.
Is there a grade difference?
There's a grade issue back there, to be quite honest. Plus, we've established
the buffers from the subdivision, so it doesn't leave a lot of room left over to, to locate it where there isn't slope issues. But we did, but interesting, Dennis, we did have this discussion, and so we kept it in our report that we could always re-examine the issue during site plan if it makes sense.
Anthony, I'm surprised that you could so casually say it's not going to affect traffic when you're adding another building on a commercial road.
Not casually, just the nature of the use, being a auto parts retail store. I'm not saying, I did say it would have a small to moderate impact, but it wouldn't reach the threshold of a significant environmental impact in terms of traffic impact. It will, the development has impacts on traffic, every single one of them, whether it's a one-lot subdivision or 118 lots, but in my opinion, it doesn't reach the threshold that we would posit decade.
I mean, what you described is sort of a run in and run out. I need this part, I'm going to go get it. It's not like somebody's going to go there and spend some time in the store.
No, I mean, there is like I said, a limited retail section. You go in and buy, air fresheners or other things that they're selling for cars, and then order the parts. A lot of auto repair businesses use them. They order. A lot of times they deliver from the site to, So I'm not suggesting that there's no traffic impact, just not a significant impact.
And signage here?
They didn't really, they show basic. We will have our conditions in there, but we don't have any specific signage proposal at this point. And of course, if they choose not to do that during the site plan, then they have to come back, or they could do it during the site plan process, which I strongly recommend doing.
What's 100 feet? 100 feet back? 50 feet?
50 feet back.
50.
Yep.
And then there's a large buffer in the rear, 100-foot buffer.
And that was established from the subdivision, when you guys did the subdivision of the land. Yep.
Yeah, residential, Ardmore Court.
So this is unlisted?
Unlisted action, so I'm recommending not coordinate. There's really not too many involved agencies that are going to want to take the secret on it, so I went ahead and made the assumption we would be the lead agency.
So it's a shared driveway in.
What's that? Oh, that's right. And the project does result in, I did forget that, sorry, reducing curb cuts, because they have the one entrance now that's going to be coming in. It's for both, and right now I believe there's actually 2 curb cuts, and we're going to be eliminating one. So in terms of that traffic impact, that would have a positive mitigation.
Do you know if the B&B Bank then that's in the shopping center, is that closing?
That's what I heard. That's what I heard. Only is.
All right, so that'll
on
direct
the
the
street.
traffic from there to there.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So our action, Anthony, is
To
to
do
deem
a
it
negative
complete.
declaration and then deem the application complete and schedule the hearing.
Do you want it all? I think we should do 2, no?
I have 2 resolves in the resolution. I just have it in one resolution. It's really up to you guys. It makes no difference to me. I have 2 resolves in there, but just one resolution. Makes no difference if you want to just do 2 separate resolutions, and you could do a resolution neg decking it.
Let's do the resolution neg decking it,
Okay?
okay? Motion?
Motion.
By Dennis.
Second?
Second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. And then deeming it complete and scheduling hearing for
September 12th.
September 12. Motion
Motion?
by Gloria, and second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Just 2 hearings on the hearing,
The hearing watcher.
the hearing watcher. Phil is the time extension watcher, I'm the hearing watcher.
Okay. You're going Metro Storage next, Anthony?
Yes.
Number 4.
Fourth, Metro Storage.
Wait till we get it. So when we look at this Ariel, there are 2 lots that remain undeveloped in
Yes.
the Lecon Court complex.
Yep, that's correct. So this is Metro Storage. This is, everybody knows Lee Concourt. So this is the new 40,000 square foot building that they're proposing. And we did get this in, we previously deemed it incomplete, we did a pre-submission conference on it. It was incomplete because they didn't have the parking all around the building. They were showing parking on one side, but 2 entrances to the building, and 1 on each side, so it didn't make sense to not have parking on the one side.
Those are pretty narrow lanes around.
Yeah,
the-
well, because you're seeing the fire lanes around the building, that will be a paved area as well. And we got to look at that. They might need to scale down the building a little bit. They really are maximizing. I don't dispute that.
What is the max square footage?
Not really.
Industrial area, there's no
Not,
no
there
max?
really isn't. It's a coverage issue, but there are a maximum for
Interesting.
LI zone. So, they made some changes to the building. I think that there's going to be some more, particularly to the rear. As you can see, it's pretty blank. It's pretty far from the residences, but as Dennis pointed out, it is facing a residential development, so.
Well, the rear faces a railroad track.
Yeah, but on the other side of it, it is a,
Oh.
a residential development. In the front here, they made some minor changes. We'll have to look at it and send it to the ARB. But generally, they're proposing very similar to what was approved, right, a few properties down. You have some comments, Dennis?
Well, I think we asked them to dress up the front.
Yeah, I think you're right. Something to
We did.
be addressed, address the street. The colors are okay, the materials are okay, but it's sort of
Is the
just.
lower part brick?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah, it's a brick.
They got to it's too much of almost like a brutalist.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it.
The
No, that's
rendering,
an actual style.
No, it is, it absolutely, 100% true.
but Anthony, these are lots of bays, and the circulation around this building is going to be really tight in
Yep.
terms of turning radiuses, and particularly if they have larger vehicles coming in. I mean, I don't know what,
Sure. I mean, obviously, self-storage doesn't generate a ton of traffic coming in and out. It's a pretty minimal use. But you're right, and one of the questions I think that we'll have out of the process, and with some design changes, has to do with the size of the building. I don't think it has to be drastically reduced, but I do think, and I've had this discussion with the applicant, that out of our review, I think that it would, it's probably going to have to be scaled down in order to.
Is this unlisted as well?
It is an unlisted action.
So
I was prepared to do neg deck. We have an opportunity.
I'm kind of reluctant to let go to secret until we start seeing, maybe they want to
Some
come in for a work
improvements.
session.
You want to do that?
yeah, why not?
The board they need to,
Agreed.
and they're a national company,
Yeah.
so they have, resources.
We could,
And there's an elevator to the second story in this?
Yes.
Do we have?
Yeah.
yeah. We could deem the application incomplete as, if you feel it didn't address your previous concerns, 100%, Dennis.
Well,
What's-
are you sure they have a complete application?
Not without doing secret.
But what's our timetable to do secret then?
Well, you could do one of two things. We could certainly coordinate, which gives us 30 days then to get a response, and then we could take lead agency.
And I don't know that we have can we deem complete just because we don't because we're anticipating a positive declaration? I'd almost say we should coordinate maybe by the
Well,
time and then say.
I think a coordination, at least, is a perfectly, it's perfectly within the legal requirements under SECRA. And doing so gives us the added time I could get the applicant to come in for the next meeting. We'll be
Right.
within that 30-day period,
Yeah.
still waiting to do a work session. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, because technically it is complete, it's just we haven't done secret.
Yeah, and so we would just deem it incomplete, but we would initiate the secret coordination. And we could coordinate with the involved agencies, the health department.
Right.
But also, have they done interior layouts there? Is that anything?
Yeah, I mean, there are floor plans in there. It's you know,
Typical,
one right after the other
a
type of.
gate, with a
Yep.
gate?
I certainly have no problems having them come in for a work session, and we could just simply initiate secret coordination
Yes,
today.
Yeah.
That would, we don't even have to deem anything complete then, Dennis, to be quite honest.
That's what I mean.
No.
Yeah.
So we could just
coordinate.
initiate secret coordination.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have circulation issues, size of lanes,
Yeah.
traffic lanes.
Perfect. I have no objections.
This
to
is the
that.
one gate that comes in off the side.
Yeah, and the landscaping in the front, there's a number of issues you
Yeah.
may want to look at.
Right,
So,
and
The rear they could
architecturally.
address with landscaping, if they didn't want, they could do some nice.
no question. Let's initiate secret coordination.
How do we, what kind of action?
Yes, just to initiate lead agency coordination with all involved agencies.
Okay, so we assume lead agency?
No,
just coordinate.
We're coordinating, okay.
I'll move
For
it.
secret. Motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Phil, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. And your next, Anthony, is
Freddie?
Frank and Irene Freddie,
Yep.
Number
6.
6.
Ignore the agenda says it's a extension and a waiver of policy. It's actually just an extension. This was a 4-lot subdivision involving 2 separate properties on Springville Road. You can see in the aerial, 2 properties next to each other. They already have 3 single-family residences on there, barn sheds, you can see a number of structures. And so basically, it would be a 4-lot subdivision resulting in 1 additional house. I believe the plan probably shows 2 of the units will be on 1 property, but they would have to eliminate 1 in order, because at no point, because they can't have more than 4 residences. They have 3 already. They're doing a 4-lot subdivision, so those 3 are already accounted for. So it's not like they're getting 4 on top of the 3 that exist. So, but they're having problems with the health department, not surprising. So they're looking to do an extension of the pre-application that was adopted, which would bring this to, I have the date actually. The pre-application report would be extended, it would basically to December 21st of 2019.
December 21st.
Yeah.
Do they have lots, do they give lot sizes? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, lot size is not a problem, road frontage is a problem, and they're before the zoning board as well.
And
And
what's
what-
the issue with the health department?
Well, I wish I could answer that easily. I think it's the health department having an issue with the number of the existing residences. So what happens is, our records indicate 3, the health department records indicate 1 or 2 or none, and so then they're sitting over there having an issue. That'll, be up to them, because they can't get to the second part of this without the health department approval.
So this is R20.
Yep, it's R20. So it's the road frontage, because you have the 2 lots in the front will front on Springville, and then you have the 2 lots in the back, which have a minimum amount of road frontage on, I forgot what road that is.
Coolidge.
Coolidge, yep. And so there's where they have the zoning issue.
And access to the rear lot is through lot 4, is through lot 1.
Well, no, per our pre-application report, the whole access of those properties will be reconfigured and eliminated, because right now it operates like an estate. You could see how it comes in. That will all have to be eliminated, and proper access will be, delineated, because right now it's all over the place. So you raise a good issue, Jackie.
Yeah.
So it's not that health department has septic issues, they
It's a records issue for them, how many units they're entitled to, right from the onset.
so that could be a septic flow issue if it's the number.
It could be, and they would have to
That's
amend.
with IA or something.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So we would just extend this until December 21st, 2019.
And it's their first extension.
Your pre-app report is good for a year. You can give them one extension. This is retroactive, so that'll bring it to December 21st. I had suggested to them, get in an application, get in your final application, even if it's incomplete. At least you get the application in, and we don't run into this, renewal issue. So that'll be up to them.
Any other questions?
Motion.
Okay, motion to extend to December 21st by Dennis,
Second.
second by Phil. All in favor? Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And then
Anthony's Beyond Properties,
Yep, what number is that?
number 10.
Number 10. Good old Ed Broidy's site up on Scout Riverhead Road.
Oh, yes.
The aerial
That site.
that site. Of course, in the process of doing this one, I found another encroachment into the buffer that I've incorporated into the approval here to address. What I did on the aerial, I just showed you in the red where the building is located. This was just a change of use to a towing and automobile repair, and it was both special exceptions, so they had to go through the process. Right now, we're just ready to approve this.
Why is that special exception?
It's just-
Because of our code?
The code just makes them both special
uses,
exceptions.
yeah.
Not, interestingly, not in the LI 200 zone, only in the LI 40 zone. So you would think that those uses would be perfectly,
Right.
good there. So I hope the resolution is on.
Yes, it's on the
Good.
pad.
So on the page 1, it's a type 2 action. We had a public hearing on May 23rd, followed by a 10-day written comment period. No comments were received. We referred to a number of agencies. The first one to the engineer. There are no site improvements proposed at this time, so there's nothing for them to comment on. On the bottom of page 1 onto page 2, they have comments from the fire marshal. The fire marshal basically said there are requirements, and we will deal with those requirements at the time of a building permit application, because when they submit the building permit application for this use, they have to send it over to the fire marshal for their review. So they acknowledge that. The Suffolk County Department of Planning said this is a matter for local determination, and we didn't get any comments from the fire district, the CAC, or the health department, but that's not surprising, again, because there's really no new construction being proposed. The next are the special exception criteria. I could go through them, but I went through the special exception criteria. This meets all of them.
They meet all the standards.
They meet all the standards. It's an existing building. There's nothing new being proposed. So there are no issues there, and it goes through M. And then I made a resolution to approve the change of use. Changes to the site plan. 1, site plan shall be consistent with the survey, and note the dumpster encroachment into the required buffer shall be removed. To the north of the building, there is a dumpster encroachment into the 40-foot buffer. I've already told Ed about it. So rather than rely on Ed to simply remove it, it's being incorporated into this approval. I want to add to the changes to the site plan 2 other things. One is about the parking and the signage for the parking. This is not really a public auto repair business. He's got to have the ability to have auto repair in order to be licensed to do towing in New York State. So what they're doing is they're going to have signage, for the few towing cars only, and they will keep any cars that they have there inside the building. They have a space up for 9 of them, and they will just keep them in there so they're not sitting all over the property.
I think we need to include the
So,
number here.
Yeah, so I want to include that. I believe it's 9 in the building, and I will make sure that goes into the reso. And the same thing, that the signage for the towing cars only. And then the general conditions of the approval: there should be no outdoor storage of automobile parts, tools, tires, and the like. Overnight storage of cars is limited to the spaces shown on the site plan, which will be
Given-
inside the building,
Give the number.
and the number 9 inside the building. The auto repair business shall comply with all applicable fire and building code regulations. No changes to the site lighting without planning board approval. And any new signage is subject to review and approval by the planning board. And then items to be submitted as a condition, which will be the affidavit and the plans for signature.
What is the other signage on this mega property?
It really isn't a lot of signage, to be quite honest. It's just a lot of activity. I mean, if nothing else, he's got tenants in there using this thing pretty amazingly. He builds them, and they're coming.
They're-
So most of the signage, you wouldn't even know there's anything there until you get to the site. It's pretty buffered from the road. So there's not like a sign that says, "Here's all the businesses here," or anything like
Right.
that.
So do we need ARB approval on the signage?
No, because the only signage that they're proposing right now is just no parking, the no parking sign.
So we can take that off, right? Oh, that's the Architectural Review Board, sorry.
Yep.
ARB.
So with those few changes I mentioned, that's what I have.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Dennis. Second by Gloria. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent.
I am finito.
Thank you.
Who's on tonight?
Jackie's on,
Jackie.
and I got in late, so I'll help her set up. Oh, we have to acknowledge, I'm sorry, Hayward property, subdivision map, 2-lot subdivision. Acknowledge signature.
Acknowledge the signature of number 14.
Yes.
The Hayward property, acknowledging signature.
And that's it? We're done?
No, Jackie is coming. It is a short agenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be a long night.
Hello.
Balance
How are
the
you?
night out.
All in favor, aye?
Approved. I am just I have an extension and then just one common driveway easement amendment, so it should be rather quick.
So Middle Line, you want
Middle Line
number
Highway
5?
is number 5.
Okay.
So this approval is valid until August 4th, so this would be a 90-day extension. This is a map where unfortunately the engineer who had stamped the health department plans has since passed away. So they're scrambling to have the surveyor work with a new engineer to get the plans together. They're owing us some common driveway easement, some common driveway plans, and also just basically getting engineer to stamp the previous plans, and, obviously that takes some time. So they're asking for another 90 days, which would take them to November 2nd, 2019.
Okay. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Dennis.
Second.
Second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Great. And next is Saltweed Associates, which is number 8 on the
How
agenda.
about?
7, what about Scuttle Hole Business Park?
Oh, a Scuttle Hole. Oh, sorry, that's an extension. That's an extension until August 8th. Sorry, yes.
Motion.
They, I guess you reviewed the decision with Claire. They asked for an extension since Claire's not here, and they're working on their engineering review and approval.
Okay, so
So that
motion,
is extended until,
August 8th, you said?
yep.
Yep. Motion by Dennis.
Second.
Second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? 6 in favor, 1 absent.
So yes, sorry, the next one is Saltweed Associates, which is number 8.
Number 8.
This one, let me see, I'll give you some maps to refresh your memory. This is the common driveway easement, where unfortunately, in the early 90s, the common driveway was built just outside of that common driveway easement. Remember, it's up.
Yes, the long one,
curving.
yes.
So this resolution is to approve a common driveway easement amendment, and I have actually contacted, obviously, we have the applicant who we're speaking with, who's requested the common driveway easement amendment, and I've also received the contact information and the information for both of the property owners to the south. So we're hoping that we'll get all 4 property owners who are subject to the initial easement to sign on the amended common driveway easement. And I'm still trying to reach out to the person who's the flag lot on the very, very end. But we did notify them all with certified letters. We just haven't heard from that one property owner. So I have a resolution to approve the common driveway easement amendment, just stating that we had a public hearing on June 13th with a 30-day written comment period, and the planning board notified all 5 property owners within the common driveway easement, and that we're just asking that and then the resolved is the planning board hereby approves the amendment to common driveway easement, allowing the inclusion of that portion of the existing driveway built outside the initial driveway easement, and as shown on the survey prepared by Marty Hand, associated with Lot 1 on the subdivision map of Saltweed Associates with the following conditions. So submission of amended common driveway easement to be signed by the property owners, and I stated the tax map numbers that are included on that common driveway easement, title certification, mortgage consent, and legal documents. Kathleen, I did have one question, though. Do you think we would need mortgage consent from all property owners, or just like the subject applicant?
Just the subject applicant.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great.
Because you're not reducing anything
Yes.
on the other
Yeah.
ones.
Okay, great. So with that, and then a standard condition for town attorney review and approval and filing of the amended covenant, common driveway, easement with the Suffolk County Clerk's Office. Do you guys have any questions? No? Okay.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Motion?
Motion by Robin, second by
Phil.
Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor and 1 absent.
Great. And Phil, were you able to sign Hampton Hills?
Hampton Hills.
Done.
Hampton Hills is acknowledged the signature.
Number 16,
Number 16, yes.
and that's it.
Great.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Phil- Dennis, second by Zuccarelli. All in favor, aye, opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. So we reconvene tonight a little before 6.
6.
Yeah.
You want to